This is 1017 CHLY.
Welcome to the Chronic Wellness Radio Show and Wellness Wednesdays here on CHLY. I am your host, Sandra Sova, and we have a really interesting show for you today. It is going to be filled with lots of strategies to start the new year off in the right direction. We are just 9 days into the new year. And, at the start of a new year, it is often an opportunity to think about resolutions. However, I am not one for resolutions, but I do, however, like the freshness and the renewal of a new year. It's an opportunity to reflect on the past and to decide what, if anything, we may want to change. With 2018 has just passed, it is a great time to reflect on what was really great about last year. What are the kind of things that we would like to duplicate for this year? What do we want more of? And by the same token, what was not so great about last year and what would we like less of? What would you like to eliminate for the coming year ahead? Once you identify what those things are, you can then look at putting on some fresh strategies in place and put a plan together. It is so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and sort of let life just come at us. But if we choose, we can take a more active role and design the life we want to experience. This past year was one where I made a lot of changes and intentionally switched things up, but instead of resolutions, I was more inclined to find solutions to move more forward into the direction of where I wanted to be. Small changes that are easy to manage and easy to execute are the kind of things that you can do, and soon you can develop those into a lifestyle, and that's the key. One of the things I am always looking for solutions for is in the area of pain management, and especially when it does not require the use of pharmaceuticals. I had a bit of a challenging time over the holidays because I've been experiencing rheumatoid arthritis flare for the past month or so. Good news is I'm due for my next infusion on the 17th, which is just a week away, and I am really ready for that. Today, we are going to be taking a look at chronic pain and talking about some of the research that is being done in this area. In November, I had the opportunity to participate in a study that looked at the use of immersive multimedia games and what effect that might have on people that are experiencing chronic pain. Pain of any kind, but in particular, ongoing chronic pain can make such an impact on a person's quality of life. Of course, it needs to be managed, but here's another challenge. Pharmaceutical dependency, addiction, and additional issues from side effects have become a crisis in our society. So finding alternative solutions is exactly where we need to be. And looking at this gaming aspect and virtual reality sounds really, really interesting. My guest today is Dr. Bernie Garrett, Associate Professor at UBC School of Nursing. And Dr. Garrett's current research is in the use of immersive multimedia and virtual reality platforms for treating pain. So I'm going to bring Dr. Garrett onto the line now. And all right. Do we have you here on the line, Dr. Bernie Garrett?
Hi, yes, you do.
Hang on just one moment here. Arby's helping me out with some technical.
We're not hearing him?
Dr. Garrett, are you there on the line?
Yes, I am.
No, I don't think so.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is?
Yeah. He just said
Hi, can you hear me?
Her headphones came out.
All right, there we go. Technical difficulties. Sorry so much about that. Welcome to the show, Dr. Garrett. Thanks so much for calling in.
Oh, thanks for your interest.
So today is it's a great opportunity to explore an area of looking at pain that probably not a lot of people are really that quite familiar with. So before we get started, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to be studying the virtual reality applications to treat pain.
Sure. Hi, I'm currently a professor at the UBC School of Nursing, and my clinical background is basically 20 years as a clinical nurse specialist in renal nursing. But I've sort of had a long interest in use of technology, and that's where a lot of my research has been, and particularly with use of technology to support education and clinical practice. And a few years back, I got interested in the use of virtual and augmented reality, and was discussing with another colleague of mine, Dr. Tanya Taverner, who's a pain specialist, about potential applications in chronic pain, because that was her area of interest. So we basically devised a study at the time to see what was being done in practice and where the state of the technology was. This was around about 2012. And at that time, virtual reality was just starting to be used in pain applications and becoming available at a consumer level. And particularly it was being used with burn patients in acute pain. And so that got us interested, and we've sort of moved on since then and been researching the use of virtual reality with chronic pain.
It's such an interesting area to be looking at, and I'm really excited about this project that you're taking on, because chronic pain affects so many people. In fact, I think the statistic is something like 1 in 5 Canadians are experiencing some sort of ongoing chronic pain.
Absolutely, and it's a massive area that is very sort of under-resourced in the healthcare system. As you know, the issues are that chronic pain isn't something that current medicine can sort of manage to treat very effectively, and often results in quite sort of powerful drug use or invasive surgical procedures.
Mm-hmm. And with those drug use things, a lot of those the side effects and everything come with that. Another reason why I'm so excited about this this study being taking place at UBC is that evidence-based research and studies for non-pharmaceutical approaches to healthcare, I really believe it's a step in the right direction, because it's going to bring more, I'm hoping, more access and more accessibility for these things in the future.
Absolutely, and sort of as nurses, we're very interested in practical applications, and from the patient's perspective, things that work for people. And so these sort of non-pharmacological or adjunctive applications that seem to have a profound impact on pain are very interesting for us to research. And there's some growing evidence that we know chronic pain is a multifactorial, very complex phenomena, and these things have got good track record of being able to assist in the treatment of chronic pain.
So what is sort of the science and the idea behind why something like, or well, maybe back up a little bit. So we talked about, the immersive multimedia, mentioned virtual reality, and then you mentioned augmented reality. What would that be? I'm not familiar with what that definition would be.
Sure, and it's hard to keep up because these terms change pretty much overnight in the field as technology moves forward. But basically, there are different terms for this new media, really, which is, virtual reality is an immersive experience where the most common way it's performed is by wearing a head-mounted display or a headset, and then you have a 360-degree view. You can look all around you in any direction, and there's a computer-controlled display which displays where you're looking at. So as far as you're concerned, you look like you're in a different environment, and as you look around, you can see things in different places. And also audio, it has a set of headphones with it. So, for example, if you hear a bird tweeting off to your left in a tree and you look over there, you'll see where the bird is in the tree.
Right.
So that's virtual reality, which most people are sort of beginning to get familiar with because they're seeing it on the television or seeing it in new games and things. Augmented reality is a slightly different approach, and that is where digital artifacts are overlaid over a screen that is actually showing the real world. So, for example, the common use of that people have probably seen is something like Google Glass, which was hasn't actually yet come on the market, but this idea you put a headset on, which is like a Perspex pair of glasses, and it projects things onto the screen that overlay what you're seeing. And so, for example, uses of that, we've started to use it with nurse education training. So students in the lab, for example, can look at a piece of equipment and then there'll be information pop up over that telling them how to use that equipment. And other areas it's been used in commercial practice are, for example, bus timetables, things like that. You can look at a bus stop and it'll come up with an overlay of the your next scheduled buses, things like that, all on your glasses. So that's augmented reality. So we've not really been using that with pain. We've been focusing on virtual reality.
Okay. And so with the virtual reality, sort of with this study, participants would interact and do the gaming, and for like 30 or 40 minutes per day, and they would track their pain levels before, during, and after the experience. What sort of idea is that using these distracting methods will have an effect on the pain? What's the thought process behind that?
Yeah, so basically we've got this current study, as you alluded to there, which is it's for cancer patients who have chronic pain, and we basically are giving them a virtual reality experience for 30 minutes a day, and they're recording their pain. And but the way it works is sort of thought to work, because we're still not really 100% sure of the exact mechanisms, is simply by neurophysiology. Now, we know pain is moderated by the brain. There's nothing magical about it. It's not Eastern philosophy or anything like that. We know for a fact that people's experience of pain is modulated by their brain and the neuroendocrine systems. And we know, for example, from studies of patients with chronic endometriosis, that often the patients who have the worst pathophysiology are not necessarily the patients who have the worst pain. So you'd think if it was just purely down to the disease itself and the pathology causing the pain, that the people with the worst physiology would be the ones with the worst pain. And we know that's not the case. So we know the brain moderates pain. There's upward neurological pathways from the side of the pain, but there's also downward going pathways that mitigate the pain. So we know as well that the pain is sort of controlled by the nervous system and the endocrine system. They both have an effect on how people perceive pain. And so the idea is that we can provide a form of neural stimulation through virtual reality that is very powerful, which can act as a very powerful distraction mechanism and gives people a sense of presence in a completely different world or completely different environment. And that very powerful distraction, which is much more powerful than, say, watching a film or a video screen or simply listening to music, things like that, because it involves all the senses in terms of putting you in a different environment, is a powerful form of distraction that takes people out of their experience of pain. And we know as well, for example, that often chronic pain patients will tell us that very often people with arthritis, for example, have multiple sites of pain, but they tell us that they can only really focus on one at a time. One time it's their knee that's really giving them agony, another time it's their elbow or whatever. So we know the brain has difficulty focusing on multiple sites of pain. So we know if we move to a very powerful distraction mechanism that virtual reality can provide, that can actually give some relief, some transient relief from the pain experience.
And I can speak to the effectiveness of something like that, because I actually was I took part in the study starting back in November, and it's like you said, all your senses are involved. You're very, very engaged. It's not the things that the different games and scenarios that we were going through were not too challenging, but they were challenging enough and they were interesting, and everything. It was such a rich environment that is absolutely different than if you were just listening to music or watching a movie or something. It was so interesting.
Yes, and this is why we think the medium is such a powerful medium for this and for other applications as well. And that's particularly because it gives you this very profound immersion sense you get as soon as you put the headset on. It gives you this sense of presence of being somewhere else. You actually feel like you're in another place. And that in itself is a huge distraction. Even when the novelty wears off, though, people are still then engaged in activities in that other area. And we have various activities that we're testing to see which are most effective within the VR environment. But it's that sense of presence that seems to be the powerful distraction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was really quite something. I've noticed a similar effect when I do my hobby is walking on the beach at low tide and searching for sea glass, and I get very focused into my environment and what I'm doing and my concentration and on all of that, and it sort of has the same effect. However, I found that there was a little bit more of a longer lasting effect from doing the virtual reality sessions. And I think the way that it's sort of felt like from me as the person going through it is that having that break, the chance to break through that pain cycle, it helps with the way your body feels, the way you hold your body, the way you're not so stressed and tensed up, and so that it's like you get like a little bit of a, like, you get to go on holiday from your pain for a while, and it had a bit of a residual effect, which was pretty cool as well.
Absolutely, and that's what we're interested in. We're study at the moment. We're interested in seeing, what are the immediate effects, and it does seem to have some good immediate distractive effects. But also now we know a bit more about neuroplasticity and the ability of the brain to sort of adapt. The ability that if you repeatedly perform a activity that distracts you from your pain every day, even for a short period, then you can actually reset parts of the brain or retrain parts of the brain to avoid some of the sort of pain stimuli that are triggered. So we're hoping that we can see some sort of longer term benefits as well.
Mm-hmm. This whole, I mean, the technology and everything that's coming, and like you say, changing so fast all the time. What are some other applications that you think that virtual reality may be able to assist?
Yeah, in healthcare, it's quite interesting. I mean, obviously in pain, we're interested at the moment in finding out what the most useful applications are. And for most people, we've tried a couple of different approaches. One is for using meditative, if you like, relaxation-based introversion type activities, but some people don't like that, and so those people tend to like cognitive puzzle-solving type activities. So just finding out which applications work best within a virtual reality environment is one of the area of research. But also in the future, obviously for professional education, it's going to have huge applications there, because at the moment, for example, if we want to put our nurses through simulation training with these mannequins, we've got these robotic mannequins that we can get them to use. It's very expensive to do that, whereas doing that in virtual reality would be a lot cheaper. But in clinical applications, one of the areas where it's probably going to have a profound effect is in rehabilitation, because we've got some very interesting studies starting to kick off, and we're hoping to do some ourselves in this area, looking at how to accelerate people's rehabilitation using virtual reality. I'll give you an example. People with strokes who recover is a long and painful process for anyone who's been through that. I'm sure will attest into getting their mobility and functionality back and rehab. But there is some good evidence that we can train the brain to think that they're actually doing more by using virtual reality, for example, by amplifying movement. They might move an inch or two, but what they see in the virtual reality movement is they've moved a lot further. And that actually assists the brain, and some of the studies now are showing that actually can accelerate rehabilitation. So those areas are certainly sort of areas where we think VR has some prospects. And the other area would be in mental health and in looking at sort of behavioral modification therapies using VR to do that.
Well, I think it's fantastic. And so we mentioned that you currently are looking for research participants for the study that you're running for cancer patients with chronic pain.
Yes, absolutely. We're still recruiting, and anyone in sort of on the island or in sort of the Vancouver area, or even out to Kelowna anywhere, really, sort of in BC, we we are looking for patients to participate. Basically, the requirement is that they're a patient who has had cancer or has cancer currently and has chronic pain associated with that. And as long as they can wear a headset or use a computer, they're absolutely able to take part in our study. And we have, they have an honorarium for taking part as well for anybody who can.
And I think it's great too because, like you touched on the fact that some people are really, they like the more like the really engaging puzzle solving aspects, and other people like the mindfulness meditation. And the more participants that you can get into this study, the more of a wider scope of data that you're going to get, and it'll be being able to get some more meaningful stuff from that. So I would really encourage people to, if you fit the criteria, and I've got a copy of the poster which I will post up on my sites after the show, so people can get a little bit more information on that. But what is the what else would should people just contact the project manager that is for running the study?
Yeah, or they can contact me. You can find me on Google. Just Google Bernie Garrett at UBC, and I'll pop up, and you can email me. If you got the poster, then contact our project manager, Crystal Sun. And yeah, hopefully it's a fun experience for people too. It's something new to try, and it's only 30 minutes a day for 6 days a week. For a month, and we provide all the equipment, everything else, set everything up, and do the training, and we'll come and do it in your home, so you don't even have to travel to do it. It's something that you can do in your own home, and we'll come and deliver the equipment for you. So hopefully people will be interested, and again, that would be really helpful for our research, because exactly, we're trying to find out which of these applications work, if they do work properly for people, and how people sort of experience this particular technology.
So down the road, do you see these sorts of things being able to be available for people that are experiencing chronic pain? Would it be something that you would like to see integrated into our healthcare system, or would it be people sourcing it out for themselves individually?
Absolutely. I think it's already starting to happen. For example, some hospitals are starting to use virtual reality distraction in pediatric units for kids having, immunization, things like that, because it's a very powerful distraction for that. But also, it will, particularly as the prices of these units are now dropping considerably, and they're getting better all the time, they'll start to appear in clinics and places like that. But the good news is they're available now, and if people, find it effective, they can actually purchase one and use it in their own home for, not too huge a price now. They're still, they're under $1,000 now, coming down quite a bit. In fact, the cheaper ones you can get for $400 or so. But obviously you can't just buy one off the shelf and try anything. It's finding out which applications work best, and it's the development of applications that are particularly targeted at particular things like chronic pain that is really going to make the difference.
Well, for chronic pain and just the distraction process, I mean, I'm thinking back to when I was receiving my chemotherapy, and just there was a lot of anxiety and stuff that went along with that. When you're in that chemo chair for several hours, having a little bit of a virtual reality break, I think would be awesome.
Absolutely, and during virtual chemotherapy is an excellent example of where that could be used. The other sort of things we've thought about are in intensive care units, where people are often, once they're conscious, are in a very noisy, quite stressful environment, and being able to put on a virtual reality headset and find yourself in a peaceful meadow and on a nice sunny day is going to be very sort of helpful for people in those environments to help relaxation as well. So there's huge applications for it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Garrett, I really I thank you not only for coming on the show, but thank you for the research and the study that you're doing. And I'm going to do my best to really promote this, to try and get some more participants for you, because it's very, very important research, and also it is so much fun. People are going to love doing it.
Thanks so much, Sandra. We really appreciate your participation in the project and your help with us. So thanks.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Again, that was Dr. Bernie Garrett, Associate Professor at UBC School of Nursing. And I will be putting all of the information on for that. So that was really, really interesting. We are going to take a musical break now. And when we come back, we are going to continue on talking about some really cool stuff. You are listening to Wellness Wednesday and the Chronic Wellness Tips radio show here on CHLY 101.7 here in Nanaimo. We're going to listen now to some Bonnie Raitt. All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Wellness Wednesday and the Chronic Wellness Tips radio show. Thank you again to Dr. Bernie Garrett for sharing the research on the immersive multimedia and virtual reality applications for treating pain. You know, I love the topic of alternatives to using medications, and I can really, really appreciate the work being done in this area. I feel it is so important. Using complementary or alternative methods does not replace medical care. We all need that from time to time. But do we need prescription drugs for everything that ails us? You know, we've all seen those ads for one drug or another, and the side effects take up equal or more of the space in the TV commercials or the magazine ads. And they need to do that because, you know what? A lot of those medications are really quite toxic. Well, what if we were to think about our bodies like we think about the planet Earth? And what if we thought about the overuse of prescription and over-the-counter medication as contributing to the pollution and creating things like climate change within our bodies? I'm not kidding. Are we supporting our organs, our body systems, and our brains and our cells by what we're putting in? Or are we creating a toxic environment? Before you think I'm being overly dramatic, did you know that the leading cause of liver failure is the overuse of acetaminophen? And acetaminophen is in common everyday products that we use. The most common one is the brand name Tylenol. And it is also in a lot of prescriptions and over-the-counter medications. And it has become really pretty lethal in a lot of situations. I'm going to play a clip from the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, and it's just a 2-minute clip, but it really highlights the dangers of something really simple and common like acetaminophen.
This is an important drug safety update from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
FDA announced that prescription combination pain medicines containing an opiate and acetaminophen can no longer contain more than 325 milligrams of acetaminophen per tablet or per capsule. In addition, manufacturers of these medicines must update their labels to include warnings about the potential risk of severe liver injury. Acetaminophen is one of the most commonly used drugs for treating pain and fever. It's in many prescription products in combination with codeine and other opiates. You might know some of these as Percocet or Vicodin. It's also in many prescription medicines to treat cough and migraines. Most cases of severe liver injury in association with acetaminophen occurred in patients who took more than the recommended amount in a 24-hour period, or they took more than one product containing acetaminophen at the same time, or they took acetaminophen with alcohol. FDA is taking this action to make medications containing acetaminophen safer for patients. Overdoses from prescription products containing acetaminophen account for nearly half of all cases of acetaminophen-related liver failure in the United States, many of which result in liver transplant or death. This is the first in a multi-step approach to this important public health issue. Prescription combination medications containing an opiate and 325 milligrams of acetaminophen are effective in treating pain and are already widely used.
You can find more information about this announcement, including a Q&A for consumers, by visiting our website at fda.gov/acetaminophen.
Wow, that is pretty scary if you ask me. And how easy do you think it is to accidentally take a higher than recommended dose of acetaminophen? It is way too easy. And in fact, so many in the chronic pain community are already doing this. I know I was at times. And it's not at all about any sort of high. It's about trying to get some pain relief. That's why things like alternative approaches are so important. We need alternatives that are not actually causing us harm. These medications, and not just acetaminophen, like lots and lots of ones, also have negative effects on our other organs, like our heart, for example. And did you know that one of the largest growing segments of our population that is becoming dependent or addicted to prescription drugs is women 40 years and over? If I was reaching for pain meds as my only solution for managing my chronic pain, I would be a toxic mess of pills. And you know what? That was me. That was me 5 years ago. And sometimes it's hard to make a change. You know, I hear people being resistant to being open to trying something else. And, you know, they come with it with a lot of skepticism. I hear people say things like, you know what, you can take your mindfulness and your holistic ways and do what you want, but I need my meds. I've tried changing my diet or eating a bunch of kale and being mindful, but it just doesn't help. Oh, I get it. I really do. Because that was me. I was so caught up in just doing what I was always doing. And when I think of myself 5 years ago, I was overworked, overwhelmed, and over-medicated. And I was pretty miserable. I sure wished I felt better, and I know I wanted to, but I was on that hamster wheel doing what I'd always been doing. And, you know, just like we tend to do. And I was pretty much resigned to things being that way. I did, however, always have a nagging feeling of what all of these meds were doing to me. my body, my planet, what am I doing? I'm polluting it. And that's what propelled me into action when a stress and anxiety crisis came my way and I needed help with it. But I was not willing to add another prescription to the list. No way. I needed and wanted a better solution. Now, you know, looking back at the time, I never considered myself drug dependent. And I certainly didn't feel that I was anywhere near addicted to the medications I was taking. I needed them. I needed them in order to have a measure of quality to my life. I've said it before here on the show that I was taking T3s for pain, sometimes every 4 hours. I was using prescription medications for sleep. And I started to become reliant on a little pill that I'd put under my tongue to help me cope with the more stressful times. That's a lot of meds. Ugh. And that is on top of the arthritis medications that I need to take to manage my disease activity. So, you know, luckily I was getting really regular blood work done and I was keeping on top of things. But still, wow, that's a lot. So over time, as I've been incorporating different ways to deal with and manage a lot of things that I was taking medications for and making small changes over time, you actually notice that all of a sudden you've been able to make a lifestyle change and that you have more options. And I am adding another one to the list of options, and that is highly immersive, rich gaming is going to go on the list. That distraction aspect it's really, really powerful. That is a great one for you to explore. So let's do just that. Let's explore some of the other strategies and solutions and techniques that we can use instead of prescriptions or over-the-counter medication. What can we do to support a healthier, less pharma-reliant response to managing our wellness and in particular pain? All right, so here are a few things to try. Absolutely, get your game on. It is that's one to explore. The virtual reality stuff is so fun. And again, if you are someone who has or currently is experiencing any sort of cancer combined with chronic pain, there's a study. I'm going to hook you up with that in the notes at the end of the show. Another thing to do which was also part of the study, was doing some mindfulness meditation. So when we're doing that and focusing on our breathing and following a guided journey through a mindfulness practice, it can be a really effective tool for relaxation, distraction, and it can really be effective in how you perceive your pain and therefore how you experience it. So if you are new to mindfulness meditations, I recommend you go over to YouTube and search for one there, and then listen to that and see if that is something that is a fit for you. Like Dr. Garrett mentioned, sometimes that's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people need something a little bit more engaging. However, I myself have found that it can be really, really effective. So that's another one. Next on the list, exercise. I've talked about this before, and I'm not going to preach too much on this one today. However, moving and strengthening our bodies on a regular basis has benefits that you need and you want. It is a great addiction to develop. Exercise helps in a lot of areas. It's great for clearing your mind, and it also provides extra energy, and it also helps with sleep. Sleep can be and has been a real issue for me. I used to have a real terrible time being able to fall asleep because I couldn't relax, I couldn't get comfortable, but mostly I couldn't quiet my mind. There was too many thoughts going on. And then when I would fall asleep, I wouldn't stay asleep due to dealing with a lot of discomfort. So that is where I started climbing the ladder of taking sleeping medications. So having success by using essential oils instead of those has been such a big win for me, and I am so thrilled. And in fact, when I look back at most of the improvements in my health over the past 2 years, I feel that a lot of it is attributed to being able to ditch and or drastically reduce the over-the-counter and prescription medication I was using. You know, and this was targeting my 3 main pain points in my life, which were stress, pain, and sleeplessness. And because I've been able to use these essential oils so effectively, because I've been able to reduce my intake of meds by making these small adjustments, it is what gets me up on my soapbox. And it's why alternatives and complementary medicine and essential oils are the main area of my focus for my health advocacy work, because it is possible to make some changes. It is possible to feel better. And that is something that I really, really encourage you to explore. And guess what? By removing a lot of those medications, I am adding years to my life because I am poisoning my body less. And I'm also adding quality to those years. So talk about a win. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It has also opened up so much more in terms of how I feel. And not just physically in my body, but having a clearer mind, more focus, less brain fog. It feels really empowering to be able to say, hey, I have choices, and now I am making better ones. You know, sometimes you hear something and it just clicks. And I truly hope that this message is helpful and is landing for some of you today. Is this you? Maybe you recognize yourself in some of the stories I've been sharing. I know that there is somebody out there right now that is currently exactly where I was. Maybe you have an autoimmune condition, or maybe you're experiencing chronic pain. I bet you're probably exhausted, and I know you're doing the best that you can, but are you actually treading water and playing roulette with your health and desperately wishing that there was a better way? You know, when I do look back and I talk about these things, when I was in the midst of it, when I was working full time, I was pushing so hard, and I was putting most of my energy and attention just to make it from one day to the next. And during that, I didn't really have the option or the vision or the belief that anything could really change for that. And it's one of the things. And so my health got really poor, and then I got my cancer diagnosis, and I was forced to slow down and stop. And it was that really allowed me to take a look at something like this. And I know that I'm not the only one that is experiencing issues like this. And maybe it's you, or maybe it's your daughter, or maybe it's your wife or your mom. I have got so many ways that I can share with you on how to specifically use these oils to provide solutions. I could teach a class on the topic. And in fact, I do just that. I can come to your home, office, or meet you at a coffee shop and provide you a free, no obligation wellness consult. We can review your specific health concerns and talk about what your health goals are and introduce you to how these oils could help support your wellness. And, finding alternative solutions for things like I was talking about, chronic pain, sleeplessness, stress, it can make a huge difference. So please track me down. Let's connect. If you are hearing this and this is speaking to you, I encourage you to reach out. I've also got some really incredible promotions on right now for getting started with oils, and they are very, very time sensitive. So if you are ready, let me know. I am truly here to help and guide you. And all of my contact information, you can find me on my Essential Oils Nanaimo Facebook page, or shoot me an email at essentialoilsnanaimo, all one word, at gmail.com. So I hope that's been helpful. I hope that's been encouraging, because that's my intention. We are going to take another short break, and when we come back, I'm going to be offering up an opportunity for anyone that works in the health and wellness space here in our community. So stay tuned for that. You are listening to Wellness Wednesday here on CHLY 101.7 in Nanaimo. This is the Chronic Wellness Tips radio show, and I am going to be right back. All right, that was really, really nice. That's Tea and Sandwiches by a local Vancouver Island artist, Camille Miller. Camille is not currently living on the island. She has a lot of adventures and travels all over the world, but I really, really enjoy catching her live when she is back here in town. And so that was our own Camille Miller. We have been talking about a lot of different ways of dealing with chronic pain, and mindfulness meditation, and the virtual reality, and the immersive. I want to talk a little bit more about the mindfulness meditation and share an experience that that happened with me over the holidays. So I was in this doing this study, which was doing a lot of the virtual reality gaming, and there was also 1 week of it though was going through guided mindfulness meditations. And I have a little bit of familiarity in this area, but these ones were really, really good. Not only was the audio really good, but there was the visual aspect as well, which was really, really fantastic. And I learned a couple of new techniques that I wasn't familiar with before. And one of them was sort of a visualization of sort of turning into and leaning into the pain and sort of isolating it and going through. And so anyway, the thing that happened to me, I was doing some Christmas shopping over the holidays, and all of a sudden I became very, very overwhelmed with pain. And it was I was really, really in quite a state. So I went to a quiet spot in the store, and I did some deep breathing, and I applied one of the visualization techniques that I had learned. And I was able to get past that immediate crisis of overwhelming pain really effectively, easily, fast. And it allowed me to carry on and do my shopping. And I was just like, isn't that cool? You're able to do this kind of stuff anytime, anywhere. And it really works. So, all about gathering and gaining skills. So again, they are looking for research participants in the immersive multimedia experiences for cancer patients with chronic pain. So in the criteria, you need to be 16 years or older, previously or currently with a medical diagnosis of cancer. You need to have received treatment by chemotherapy, radiation, or hormonal treatment or surgery. And you cannot currently be in hospital. You have to be able to be in your home. And looking for people that are also experiencing chronic pain as a result. And chronic pain is, you'd have to be someone who is suffering ongoing daily pain for 3 months or more with a pain score of 4 or higher. You also have to have some comfortable ability to navigate and use a computer, read and understand the English language, and be able to, operate the controls. It's really easy. It's not that complicated. And again, like I say, it was fun. So please do that. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is, are you someone that works in or has expertise and knowledge or products and services related to health and wellness? Well, the Oceanside Health and Wellness Fair is taking place in March, on March 16th in Parksville, and we are looking for exhibitors. So if this is something that sounds like might be up your alley, check it out. It is the Oceanside Health and Wellness Fair is a really well-attended event here on the island, and it's a great opportunity to reach out and connect with people that are interested in health. The registration is now open to the public, and for a show on again March 16th 2019, you can go over to the website, which is www.oceansidehealthyliving.com. Again, that is oceansidehealthyliving.com, all one word. Look for the registration form for 2019. And if you are someone with working within health and wellness, we would love to welcome you to the show and have you there in March. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a great pleasure and very interesting. And first show of 2019, I'm looking forward to spending time with you over the course of the year and bringing lots of interesting and helpful topics your way. Again, you can find me over on social media at Chronic Wellness Tips on Instagram or Facebook. And for the oil stuff, it is Essential Oils Nanaimo. And I wish you all a really, really excellent afternoon. Thanks for listening. Tune in every Wednesday for Wellness Wednesday here on CHLY. It takes place every Wednesday at 1 o'clock p.m. And you're definitely going to learn a lot of good stuff. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Have a terrific rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon.